Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video where I am going to be breaking down all of the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty mechanics, evaluating how good they will be in Limited and how it will change our evaluations of the cards. Before I dive in, I want to remind you that if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more draft content, including plenty of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and comment below with your questions, thoughts on the new mechanics, and your feedback. So, in the new cards and the new set is really just getting into full swing now. Today was the big release day where they showed off a bunch of cards, a bunch of the mechanics, and a bunch of the story of the set. And so they have all these articles about it, and they're publishing a bunch of preview cards and stuff like that. So this is a great time to be a Magic player. And let's start looking at the mechanics. Reconfigure is the first one, and Reconfigure essentially makes your creature into a artifact creature slash equipment slash creature hybrid combo. So it's much easier to understand when you look at a card. Simian Sling is their example, so we'll start with that one. It is a single red mana for a 1/1, but it also has Reconfigure for 2 colorless, which means you can equip it to your creature as an equipment and give that creature +1/+1. And then whenever the equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to defending player. So it gains all of the abilities on the card, but once it is equipped, it is no longer a creature until it becomes unequipped. And you can unequip it yourself, or if the creature dies, it will become unequipped. It's worth noting that when you have a equipment on a creature, you can attack with that creature, and then you can unattach the Simian Sling, but it will lose those stats. So if it has taken a couple points of damage, it might die if it loses the +1/+1, but you will then have an untapped artifact creature. And the way I see this playing out is it's going to give you a lot of flexibility with having your creatures do a lot of unique things. These cards are very powerful because they give you a ton of options with what you want to do. Normally a 1-mana 1/1 isn't inherently super good, but the fact that you can put it onto your creatures, that you can unattach from your creatures, put it onto something else, it's kind of clunky if you're using it like twice in a turn, because 4 mana is a lot to move the equipment around, but it does give you a ton of flexibility, and I expect a lot of these designs to be quite powerful, just because of having flexibility in Limited is really important. It does also make me think that artifact removal is potentially going to be more main deckable if it is attached to a relatively decent card. In other words, so like a creature that destroys an artifact is probably going to be main deckable in this set, because killing one of these artifact creatures is going to be good, I would say. So I'm going to be keeping my eye out for artifact removal, and also keeping my eye out for these Reconfigure creatures, because they seem like they're going to be quite powerful and they have a lot of potential upside, especially if they start giving abilities like flying or things like that. The next ability plays really well with Reconfigure, and that is Modified. And this is a mechanic that cares about having creatures that have counters, auras, or that are equipped. So if you have a Reconfigured creature like the Simian Sling attached to your Modified creature, or a card attached to a creature, and then you have a card that has Modified on it that cares about you having a creature like that, it's going to be able to get a reward. So Aki Emberkeeper is their example card, and whenever a non-token modified creature you control dies, you create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. So if you have one of your equipments attached to a creature and it dies, you're going to get a 1/1. That seems like a relatively marginal reward, but it's really nice to have access to that sort of thing. It's kind of a free roll in many ways, and hopefully that's going to mean that there's auras that you can build around a little bit, there's equipments that you can build around. These are the Reconfigure creatures, and then there are +1/+1 counters, though it also notes that -1/-1 counters would count if there are ability keyword counters. I know that I've seen at least one card that has an ability keyword. I saw a card that had a menace counter on it. That would count for the modification, and overall it's just going to make it just play out pretty well if you have some synergies with it. I'm not sure how much of a build around it's going to be, but it will make me evaluate every card I see that puts a counter onto a creature, every card that's an equipment, every aura a little bit differently. So I'm going to make sure that when I'm looking at those cards, when I'm seeing them, they start to trickle in the stream of cards, I'm going to be like, well, will this play well with modified cards? And I'm going to have to wait to see how the modified payoffs end up looking. But depending on if there's like a deck that really cares about you going hard on getting a bunch of counters onto your creatures, like spread them out usually, probably, because you might just want to have quantity of modified creatures rather than just having one creature that has everything on it, because it doesn't get more modified if it has like 3 counters on it. So you might want to spread those counters around, or those equipments around, or things like that. But overall, this modified stuff seems like it could be a really powerful mechanic depending on what sort of cards are printed for it, but it does seem very interesting. The next up is a returning mechanic, but it is Sagas, and it has a unique twist where the Saga will flip instead of going away. So this is a mythic rare version, but it's essentially you get the first 2 steps. The way a saga works is it comes into play with a lore counter, and it gains another lore counter after your draw step. So it comes in and it does the first ability, and then after you draw your next card on your next turn, it does the second ability, and then after you draw your card on your third turn, it does the third ability. And in this case, the third ability is going to flip it, and in this case, it will flip it into Kagachi Made Manifest. So it's like going to flip into a big creature. So instead of the sagas going away, they're going to flip into something beneficial to you, which is quite nice, and something that I will be I think it's going to make sagas quite a bit better, because instead of them having only a temporary effect, they have a temporary effect, and then they're going to give you a lasting effect, because they're going to be giving you, I think, a creature, or maybe they're going to give you some other form of permanent, but overall they're going to be giving you a lasting benefit on the field. They're not just going to go away, which does make them significantly better. We're used to seeing sagas kind of disappear after their little story has been told, but here the stories are ongoing, as the creature will then help you, or whichever, if you do get a different type of permanent, it'll help you. So that does make the sagas quite a bit more powerful, and it does make me want to prioritize taking them, or at least view them in the lens of, okay, I know how good sagas can be. These are the types of sagas that have been good in the past, the ones that affect the board, the ones that are used for removal. Last time we saw sagas was in Kaldheim. Cards like Binding of the Old Gods that were used as saga removal spells were quite powerful. There's quite a bit of potential with sagas, and the fact that they're now going to flip into useful things is going to make them even better. So I'm going to be keeping my eye out for those sagas. Next up is Ninjutsu, another returning mechanic, and one that is going to be very interesting to see play out. It certainly makes you want to block, because the way Ninjutsu works is if you attack with an unblocked creature, you can then activate your Ninjutsu ability from your hand and put a Ninjutsu creature into play and return the creature that you had in play to your hand. And the new ninja will be attacking. So Dokuchi Shadow Walker is a 6-mana 5/5, which isn't great stats, but if you ninjutsu it in for only 4 mana, you're getting a 5/5 hitting your opponent immediately, which can be quite brutal if you are on the receiving end of that. So keep an eye out for evasive creatures. Keep an eye out for creatures that your opponents aren't going to want to block. Keep an eye out also for sometimes for creatures that gain a benefit if they return to your hand, maybe creatures with an enters the battlefield effect, and then also cards that punish your opponent for blocking. So like combat tricks can be really good with ninjutsu, because your opponent is going to want to block, and then cards like that like kill creatures that have taken a little bit of damage can be pretty good as well. So the ninjutsu mechanic is really going to influence how some of the decks play out, and also how combat plays out for the entire format. Regardless of whether you have ninjutsu in your deck, it's going to change the way you block and things of that nature. So I'm going to be keeping my eye out for good ninjas, but also for the cards that are going to enable the ninjas, because a ninja really needs to have a little bit of a helper to help him sneak through combat. So evasive creatures that are cheap are going to be really cards that I'm looking for as the set develops and as previous season goes forward. I also made an entire video about the return of the ninjutsu mechanic. This one was a little bit previewed when they showed some cards in December that were going to be in the set as like a little bit of a hype up for the new set type thing. Wizards of the Coast sent like that a ninjutsu card, and so we knew this was going to be coming back, so I already made a video on this mechanic specifically, going in depth on how it's going to impact drafts. If you want to see that, it's on my channel. Okay, moving on to channel. Speaking of channels, this is another returning mechanic. It's not a mechanic that I'm super familiar with, because I didn't play during original Kamigawa block, but it looks like it's going to play out quite well, and I have to say that the Greater Tanuki looks very, very powerful as just like an option. Like a 6-mana 6/5 Trampler is like a fine card. It's an enchantment creature. I don't know how relevant that's going to be. If there are enchantment creatures running around, and also with sagas running around, main deck artifact and enchantment removal could be even better. So things like Naturalize that can destroy an artifact or enchantment. If there are these reconfigure creatures, these sagas, and the like enchantment creatures in the set, that could make enchantment removal and artifact removal even better as well. So I'm going to be keeping my eye out for those things for sure. But the way channel works is, instead of casting the card normally, you can play the channel card, discard, pay the channel cost, and then you discard the card and you get an effect. So with the Greater Tanuki, if you're like short on lands, you can discard it and get a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. So you get a little bit of a ramp or mana fixing, and also just a big finisher. And this is a very nice ability to have, because it gives you a lot of built-in flexibility. It's the sort of thing that is going to help your cards be relevant throughout the game, and also make sure that if you have some channel cards, you're going to have stuff to do in the early turns if you only have a lot of late game spells. So I think this is really good. Flexibility mechanics like Reconfigure, like Channel, generally lead to intricate gameplay that's really skill testing, and so I'm really looking forward to that aspect of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the cards. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play out, and overall, I'm really excited for the new set. Those are all of the mechanics, returning mechanics, old mechanics, and then of course there's staples like flying and reach and things of that nature. But these are the ones. There's Ninjutsu, Channel, Sagas, Modified, and Reconfigure. I think it's going to really be an interesting road ahead in the new set. I'm looking forward to seeing how all the cards play out. In the comments section down below, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave hashtag and then the name of your favorite new mechanic or returning mechanic that you're excited to see. I'm personally very excited to see how Reconfigure plays out because that's such a unique mechanic, attaching your creature, unattaching, reattaching, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you did enjoy this video, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more draft content, and comment below with your questions, thoughts, and feedback. You can find more of my content, including an article on how I prepare for a new set, linked in the description down below, a link to the NicolaiBolas Discord server, which is free for everybody to join. And then if you would like to support my content, you can do so via the Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas, and gain access to my card-by-card tier list for Kamigawa Neon Dynasties. I give you an edge on the competition and see my thoughts on each and every card. That is going to do it, though. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm super excited for the new set and for preview season. I hope you are as well, and I'm going to be bringing you tons of great content in the coming days. So that's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.